N is 2 and L is 1. How many electrons can share that? N is 2, L is 1. How many electrons can share that? You know what you should be doing in your brains?
6.
No.
6.
I'm hearing 6. Here's what this is my thinking process anyway. First of all, I have to write it down. Okay, and then I would translate that to the part I'm more comfortable with, the old way, because we spend more time with the old way. So that translates as what? 2p. Okay, so in the old talk, I would have said, we're on the 2p sub level. How many electrons can fit their max? And you say 6. Now I'm just asking it in code. I'm saying N is 2, L is 1. Okay, so we went from having 8, now we got 6. It's like a letter. To get the address, let me use this example. Okay, what if I want to mail you a letter? And I put your name on it, and then I've just put Houston, Texas for your address. How many people share that address? What, a couple of million? Because all I put was the city and the state. Okay, but then, what if I put your name, and then I put a street? I'm just making this up, North Braeswood. But I don't put a number for the street, I just say your name, North Braeswood, Houston, Texas, with zip. Okay, how many people share that address? Well, how long is North Braeswood? You know, 3 or 4 miles or more, probably. There's probably a few thousand. Notice how we've narrowed it down? As you put more of the address, we're narrowing it down where you might have a chance of getting the letter. Okay? So then, if I put a third part of the address, if I say your name, 3809 North Braeswood, that's not where I live. A girl yesterday said, I'm writing that down, I'm going to go through toilet paper at your house tonight. Okay, no, that's not where I live, I made that up. All right, if I say 3809 North Braeswood, Houston, Texas, with the zip, we know the very house now. But still, how many people could share that house? Well, I don't know, 2, 4, depends. Okay, so if I really wanted to pin it down, probably, I'd have to give your name, 3809 North Braeswood, Northwest bedroom. Now that's assuming you're not sharing the bedroom with anybody. Okay? So that would pin it down exactly where you are. Well, that's what we're doing with the quantum numbers. When I said N is 2, how many can share that? You guys told me 8. Then I gave you more info. N is 2, L is 1. How many can share that? And you all told me 6. Okay, now, what if I say N is 2, L is 1, M sub L is 0. How many guys can share that address? 2. Because by the time you get 3 quantum numbers, we're down to the very orbital that guy lives in. Okay, so here, this told us major level. We're in here. These 2 together said we're in here. Then having this one, that means the electron we're thinking about is in here, but it could be the up or the down guy, because 2 could reside in there. Okay, now if I say M sub S is plus 1/2. Now if I give you all this stuff, N is 2, L is 1, M sub L is 0, M sub S is plus 1/2. Which guy is it? The first one. Okay, now let me ask one more question to get you, Andrew. Okay, which element up there has that for its last electron? Which element up there has that for the last? Now, because of the Aufbau principle, we can't have that guy hanging out here by himself. We have to fill up everything to that point. So I'm just not drawing all that in for you. I'm just saying, which element up there ends up with that? Meredith? You hear nitrogen,
Carbon.
carbon. You're saying nitrogen, some are saying carbon. Well, here, let's do it. To get to there, we have to go 1s2, 2s2. It's carbon, because it ends up 2p2. Now, Andrew had a question with you. Yeah, as you're doing Hund's rule. Yeah. Now, you had a question a second ago.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so as a question, would you give us the code and tell us to draw the box diagram or vice versa?
Okay. I might say, I might play the games. N is 2, L is 1. How many can share that? Okay, that's one possible question. Another question is, here are, excuse me, here are the 4 quantum numbers. Which element up there has that as its last electron? And that's what I just asked you, and people said carbon. A few said nitrogen, but carbon. Now, to have it be nitrogen, I would have to put one more in there, wouldn't I? Mm-hmm. And then, how would this guy's address change from that guy I just circled? N is what? N is what? I want the address. Let me change colors. Okay, N is 2, L is 1, M sub L is 1 plus 1. And of course, if you don't put the sign, it's understood to be the positive one. M sub S is plus 1 half. Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Now, Nikki, you had a question.
Yeah, you answered it. I was just going to ask if, like, when you're doing that, you have to fill every box, like, with 1 first, and then go back and, like, fill it with the rest. So, but that answered it.
Now, let me get rid of that. Let me go back to here. Disregard this. Makes it harder. What if I say, here are your 4 quantum numbers. N is 2, L is 1, M sub L is 0, M sub S is minus 1 half. Who ends up as that for its last electron? Which, Pedro? Neon? You say neon?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I hear one answer of neon. Anybody have another thought? Andrew. F.
Neon, you'd have to fill the whole thing.
Yeah, neon, you'd have a full house. Let's go back to here. I don't know about you, but when I hear questions like this, I have a real hard time doing it in my head. I've got to stop and write it down to see it. That's just how I visualize it. Some people can do it quickly in their heads. Okay, let's get to here. And let me get the old talk out of there. Okay, how do we get to here? In order to get to a minus 1 half, we got to go 1, 2, 3. And Nikki, that's what you were asking about. Whose rule is that? Hund's rule. Okay, now, I've got to get to this middle orbital, don't I? Okay, so I've got to come back, because we are talking about that electron, aren't we? Okay, N is 2, check. L is 1, check. M sub L is 0, check. Middle orbital. Minus a half is the second guy in. So the question really is, who ends up with, what's that, 2, 4, 5? Who ends up 2p5, and that was? Fluorine. If you said fluorine right off the bat, pat yourself on the back. Or even if you were thinking it quietly to yourself.
Now, how do we know that it ends on?
Okay. All right. I give you this and I say, who ends up with this as its last electron? Okay, so I feel this, and I get up here. I know I'm in N is 2. N is 2 is somebody in here. Then L is 1. I narrowed it down to this sub-level. Then, if I narrow it down to m sub L is 0, I've got to be in this middle orbital. And if m sub S is minus 1/2, I've got to be the second guy in there. Well, how do I get there? Okay. I draw these things for myself all the time. How do I get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I go up there and I go, who is that? Who ends up 2p5? Fluorine. So I do I'm very visual. I got to write it out. I also want to be looking at the periodic table. Okay? We doing okay? All right, good. It looks like most of you are following that really well. Now, I'm going to make a mistake. I know it's shocking as that may seem, but I'm going to write a mistake up here, and I want you to pick out my mistake. Okay? I just wrote that as an address for an electron. I have made a mistake. Liz, what's my mistake? Yeah, this would translate as what? 3F, wouldn't it? Does 3F exist? No. And so, bad address. L is bad. Because if you've got N is 3, now go back to the old stuff that you're more comfortable with probably. If N is 3, we're on the third major energy level, and what do we have there? 3 sublevels, S, P, D. Well, that translated as 3F, there is no 3F. So we know that's a bad address. Okay, is that out there? All right, now let's do another. Okay, N is 2. N is 2. L is 0. M sub L is 1. M sub S is plus 1/2. I have a mistake. What's wrong with it, Bruce?
You have one of the ML.
Yeah, the ML's trash, isn't it? Because here's, again, this is my thought process I go through. I take the first 2, because that tells me what sub-level I'm on. Okay, I'm on a 2 what?
2S.
2S. Okay, 2S. Okay, then I kind of have this thought in mind, or I look back at my notes. Well, when you're in an S, the only allowable value for M sub L is 0. Remember, only that one orientation in space for a sphere? And the math talk, I had it up here before. If you just like the little formulas and stuff, if L is 0, M sub L can be minus 0 to plus 0. And of course, minus 0 to 0 to plus 0, it's all just plain old 0. So this one, that was bad. Okay. I wasn't very tricky. I've done my mistakes in first, second, third, fourth. Okay, what's my error here? Antonio, what's my error?
The MS is only like this, not 1.
Yeah, it has to be what or what?
Positive half or a negative half.
Exactly. Positive half or negative 1/2. Okay, if it's positive 1/2, that is the last electron for whom? Remember, translate, where are we? We're in a 2S. Is it the first electron in or the second electron in? Lithium. Lithium.
So is there any special thing we need to know for that when it comes to the copper and the chromium?
Oh, if you said the last, I would not ask that question.
Okay.
That's a wonderful point. You know, what if I get really mean? A copper or chromium, since they are exceptions, it would be tough to call. Well, which one's really the last one?
You could just kind of
Yeah,
play with it and
you know, sometimes I draw pictures and I'll say, I'll circle one and go, give it to me. Or I say, I've got these 4. Okay, so there is the quantum language talk. Does anybody have a question? Okay, are you just stunned? Okay, you held up really well, and you did well. This stuff's tough to get from the book, so be sure, look at the notes so you can pick out what's important and what's not. I think the hardest thing about our book, sometimes the hills and valleys, that they put a lot of valleys in that you really don't need, and it's hard to go from mountaintop to mountaintop to know what's really important. That's why my notes, I've taken just the goods that you really need.